Drop Zone Films, Danny Ramos. Thank you so much for being here. The moment we've been waiting for. We're going to bring out Cleto one more time, our MC, and he'll bring out Paul Rodriguez. So everyone take your seats, find your seats, and let's just have fun with Paul Rodriguez. And thank you, San Antonio, for showing your love and support as he flies back out to Los Angeles.
We love Paul Rodriguez.
I just love how it just brings the community of San Antonio together.
I came to the Paul Rodriguez show to laugh.
We love him because he is an icon for us.
Thank you, my man. Much Merry Christmas if I don't get to see you. All the best to you, Shank. You're the man.
He's very talented, and I'm looking forward to seeing the show tonight.
One of the best comedians on the face of the earth.
Yep, just to go see him at the little clubs in Los Angeles. It's just so love.
Who says that? Who says that? What about us? And then she looks at me.
But remember, we love you, Bernard.
Seen him on HBO Showtime. Been making people laugh for years. Put your hands together for the one, the only Mr. Paul Rodriguez.
Thank you very much, everyone. I'm glad you're here. Please lower your expectations, and we're going to have a good time. I'm reminded of that song when I was filming it with Cheech Marin, someone that I've always looked up to, not literally because he's like 4 foot tall, but metaphorically. And I remember he said, "Listen, I just put your name here. I don't know Spanish, but he said, just fill in this part over here where the Virgin is looking at you and you're a pata rajada from Mexico." And I said, "Well, you know enough Spanish to say pata rajada." He goes, "Well, I just asked the lady who cleans my house." I said, "Well, that's very racist of you." But it's amazing how that movie is 40 years old. And since I've been in some other 40 other movies, some of them forgettable and some of them memorable, and nobody remembers anything else but that pendejo that I play, which goes to show that, I'm a very good pendejo, and I've not changed. I want to thank all of you for coming out on this, not a typical San Antonio night, huh? But, we are close to Christmas. I think there's only like 23 days of shoplifting left. So you make sure you do that. Christmas always, for me, has never been about anything other than the food, I knew right away that there was no Santa Claus because my father wouldn't want to put the suit on, and my mom would say, "Ay, mijo, tú estás barrigón, tú puedes hacer el papel de Santa Claus para los niños." But I knew it was my father because when he put his presents on, I smell his breath and I go, "Híjola, that has to be my dad," because I don't think Santa Claus le apesta tanto la boca así, And I remember we Mexicans, and I say we, I know some of you don't consider yourself Mexicans, you're Texicans, but trust me, you're confused, you are Mexican. That border didn't cross, that border didn't change your ethnicity, I've always liked San Antonio because the roots of Mexicanos is really deep here, And in fact, in the whole Southwest, every time I see in the news of them deporting Mexicans, I think the mentality of Caucasians that they don't understand about us is that, to us, crossing the border is an inconvenience, To us, this is nothing more than an amputated part of Mexico. And as long as there are people of our color, and as long as we're able to speak Spanish still, it will always be us, We're very inclusive people, When the Mexicanos saw the whites crossing the Nueces River into what was Mexico, we didn't see them as foreigners. We saw them as other people who wanted to be like us, And of course, history turned out that they didn't want to be like us. They wanted us to be like them, you know, which is not going to happen. Because I think what we've given America is innumerable things. Not only, I never understood racism towards us because the whites love everything about us. They love our food. They love our music. They love our zest for life. And they love our women, which is something I have a problem with. But it's something else, you know. I mean, what you are is not something that's chosen, you know. None of us walked up to God in memory and said, you know, I'd like to have this beautiful brown skin from head to toe. No tan lines, please. I always remember that anytime I would get into a fight in the schools that I was with, my father would remind me, he goes, tienen celos. They're just jealous. I remember going to school and looking at the white guys and I go, I'm sorry. I'm sorry you don't look like this. I'm sorry you don't have that nice skin like me. What the hell are you talking about? You know what I'm talking about. My father told me you're jealous. What? Well, of course I thought I was crazy, but that's all right. Sometimes being crazy, it's a lot better. Come on in, you're late. Look at you, you're a two-fisted drinker. Where's my seat? Go on in, damn it. I'm gonna have to start all over again. That's right, and make sure you go to AA meeting. Come on in. I'll have to start all over again. Hello, my name is Paul Rodriguez. I love San Antonio because San Antonio loves me, you know. And then of course I went to Thailand, and I got to see a lot of the world, you know. I've been around the world twice, and the first time I was drunk, and the second time I didn't know where I was. So as far as I'm concerned, I've not gone anywhere. But I've got great memories of San Antonio. I remember being at Lackland Air Force Base, and one time there was a Little Joe y La Familia concert, and I had this first sergeant who refused to let me go out to see Little Joe. But if I'm anything, I'm a very crafty and persistent guy. So I went to the PX and I stole 2 lieutenant bars, and I made myself an officer. I put them on the side of my lapel, and I walked out of the gate with the guards saluting me really weird. Apparently there weren't many Mexican officers at the time. And they saluted me, and I went out and I had a great time. He played over here in the auditorium. By the time I came back, I was arrested. I was arrested with Article 15, and I went before a board of a colonel and majors, and they wanted to know why I was impersonating a lieutenant. And I said, because if I had $1.65, I said I could have been a captain, you know, because that's how much the bars cost. And one of the officers wanted to laugh really bad, and I figured, you know, if I can make this guy laugh, I'm not going to be in trouble, you know. So I started to do a routine there, and at the end of it, they gave me an Article 15, which basically they wanted to take a stripe off of me, but I didn't have no stripes, you know. So I figured it's a win-win situation. I told the officer, I said, well, first of all, I said, you got to give me a stripe before you take one. I said, so I don't feel like I've done anything wrong. It's not like I'm going to give the Russians any secrets. Hell, I work in the kitchen. What secrets can I give the Russians other than how to make good food, you know? Oh, many years have gone by, and now I find myself in they call it the second half of life, but life is not decided by half, you know? I know that when you're 70, you're not in the second half, you're in the last half. So you better make it count. But I think I'll live another 10, 15 years. It doesn't matter to me, because my mom hung on till she was 98 years old, you know? And she left because she wanted to. She was there, and I kept saying, Jefita, you know, Jefa, and she would wake up, ay, Dios mío, no me vas a dejar ir al más allá. Don't you see? I'm gonna go see your father up there. And I said, Ma, before you make that decision, are you sure my father went in that direction? She thought about it. She goes, well, I don't know. Why don't you behave so that when your time comes, me and your dad, if he's there, and if he's not there, I'll be there, and I'm gonna there be here to greet you, and we can become a family all over again. I said, all right, Jefa. My mom was in love with my dad, and I still don't know why. My father was not an attractive man, but if you notice, you see a lot of pretty women with less than attractive men, and I think the secret is that you have to have the gift of gab. Women want you to talk to them nice, you know? Oh, they can find a chulo anywhere, but they'll just use him for a day or two, you know? They want a man with character. Someone knows how to talk to them. Oye, Rosita, válgame Dios, qué bonitos zapatos tienes. Pues sí, fíjate, esos zapatos están tan chulos. They match your eyes. ¿A poco? Well, not right now, only when your eyes are bloodshot, tú sabes. When you've been eating and drinking for a while, that they match your eyes. But right now, they just match your shoes. ¿A poco? You know, it's interesting because there's this girl that I have been, some would say stalking. I would say pursuing. You know, I call her at 3 o'clock in the morning just to make sure she's fine. I go to her house, I peek through the window. I ask her to go out with me. She goes, no. But I'm persistent, you know. I don't hear no, I just hear not right now. So finally, the other day, she goes, all right, Paul. Damn it. If you take me to go see the Eagles, I'll go out with you. I said, well, why didn't you say that earlier? I could have done that. So anyways, on the way back from the zoo, she was all upset, you know. I said, what are you upset about? You want to go see the Eagles? You saw the Eagles? You saw the monkeys? You saw the giraffes? You're so stupid. I said, maybe so. Maybe so, but it just might be a lunatic you're looking for. You know? Because normal guys are boring. Women will complain about men, but deep down inside they know that a normal, ordinary guy is boring. Women like a guy who's exciting. You don't know at what time he's going to come home, and you're all upset, but you can't wait for him to come home. You know, that's just the thing, you know. There's a psychology to that, you know. For example, if you're married, or if you're just living in sin, you know, from around 9 to midnight, you're upset. You know? Este cabrón, I wonder what he's doing. Este cabrón, vas a ver. But after midnight, you start worrying. Ay, Dios mío. Ojalá que no le pasó nada a mi cachetón. I hope he's okay. At 2 o'clock, you're really panicked. You're praying to God. I don't care if he's with another woman and had an accident as long as she doesn't survive. I just want him back, oh God. And that's the way things are, you know. You try to understand the mentality between men and women. We talk a different language, you know. I was just asked recently, why aren't you married, Paul? I said, I wouldn't want to torture a woman with my lifestyle. I'm never home. I don't know why I have a house. Every time I go home, hey, where you from, Missy? I go, where am I at right now? Somebody said they saw you over there on 15th Street. I said, I was on my way over here, cabrón. So I always talk myself out of these problems. It's the only thing I do right. You know, they asked me to do the commencement speech to my graduating class from my high school, right? Now it's all Negro. They're all Negros, right? But at the time, there were still some Mexicanos there and some whites. And I talked to them and I go, what y'all doing now? What's up, my brothers and my sisters? They kept looking at me, God damn. I said, that's right. That's right. I'm one of them light-skinned brothers, you know. That's right. I told them, I said, you know, back when I was here, there were still some whites, and now we're all black. I said, we are all black. They said, brother, you ain't black. I said, look, I don't have to take my pants off to show you I'm black. You know? But I'm as black as you can be. My soul is black. And don't get in front of me, because if I get excited, I'll knock you over, you know. You know, course, I was exaggerating, so, but you know, you got to do something for a living. You know, I remember, I have memories of this town. So many friends have gone to their reward, you know, and that'll happen to me soon, but I don't look forward to it, but I have a strong belief in the way I was raised with my Catholic faith. My mama left me. All right, we'll wait till you come back from the bathroom. See, that's the difference between men and women. Women can never go to the bathroom by themselves. They have to have a cheerleading squad. I don't know what the hell that is. Guys don't do that. Hey, compadre. Ramón, Juan, Jaime. Vamos al baño. Para que tú sabes, me detengas aquí, lo que tengo acá. Porque está muy grande y yo no lo puedo detener solo. ¿Cómo no, compadre? Le echo la mano así, a ver. They encourage, you know. I don't know what women do in the bathroom. Come on, Rose, you can do it. Pues no quiere salir, pues que salga. But the thing is, God bless women. Where would we be without them? Probably pretty happy, I think, you know. Yeah. Dicen que ¿cómo dice? Hay una canción mexicana. By the way, ¿cuántos de ustedes no hablan español, no entienden ni papa? Tú, pues entonces te jodiste. You know, somebody was telling me, are you going to prepare an act? Yo no preparo nada. That would be homework, you know. I think I'm blessed because, you know, I just, I'll talk for a few minutes, and then I'll go to the cashier and go, how much is mine? What a hell of a job. A hell of a job to make a living out of being you, really, being me, you know. I don't have to prepare for this, and sometimes it doesn't work out like today. But it's never dull, you know. Right now I'm just killing time till I get another idea. You know? Been trying to quit smoking, so somebody said, you know, use lollipops instead of smoking cigarettes. Use lollipops, it'll be better. Well, I've had about 30 of these today. My lungs are clean, but my teeth are rotting. You can never get away, one thing or another. When I used to smoke, they used to say, why do you smoke? I said, I smoke because there are hungry children in North Carolina. See, they grow the tobacco in North Carolina, and I don't know, you people need cable or something, you know? I can't sit here and give you an education, but they grow tobacco in North Carolina. That's why I said that. You're from North Carolina, or you like to just holler? That's right. You know, don't holler too loud because I'm tired of my homosexual life. And I'm thinking about finding a woman from San Antonio. I have requirements. I want your hands to smell like masa, you know? My mother always said, find a woman that can cook and last a lot longer than that other activity. And I go, what other activity? No te hagas el pendejo. You know what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, like you and Dad? My parents were noisy lovers, man. One day I think we Mexicans, we make a covenant with our parents. It's never discussed, it's never talked, but every one of us know that our parents are going to live with whichever one of their children is the most affluent, you know, or is married to a white guy with a house, you know. One day, my folks just showed up at my front lawn, at my front door, with luggage. And I go, Ma, ¿qué pasó? Do you have a room with a bathroom for your father and me? I go, Ma, you're gonna live with me? That's right, mijo. You won the competition. All right. Come on in, Ma. Come on in, upstairs to the left. One of the happiest days of my life. My parents stayed there until the Lord took them, the landlord, because I was not allowed to have tenants at the time, you know. And my parents were noisy lovers, you know. They were both losing their hearing, and I could always tell when they were having sex or knocking chicken or fighting. because my father made a very distinct sound when he was doing that. My father sounded like a goat in agony, you know? He was like, and my mom, like any Latino woman, when you were hitting it just right, they became very religious. Ave María Purísima, Santa Petra la Milagrosa, dámelo, dámelo, dámelo. And it was like, dámelo, dámelo, toda la noche, all night long. Sometimes I'd say, ya dáselo, mamá. Ya dáselo. I didn't know what they were talking about. In the morning, I'd be in the kitchen. My mom was obviously very satisfied. She's giving me that tortilla applause, you know, making tortillas, whistling songs. Y que será, será. All happy, satisfied. And she looked at me, she goes, Mijo, what do you want for breakfast? I said, Ma, I don't want you to touch my food, seriously. I know where your hands have been. That's not a nice neighborhood. I think I'm gonna go down to Denny's. I'm gonna have the Rudy, the Tootie, the Fresh, and the one with no booty. Pues mira nomás, no sé qué tienes. And then my dad would come, wake up, you know. He always called it his house, although I knew he was paying rent. He's out scratching himself, you know. Y luego das la vuelta por allá. Man, it's like your brain's connected to your huevos. We can't give directions. You know, the thing about it is that we morph into our parents. If you notice that, now when I shave in the morning, I see my old man's face there, and I know my future's not bright. You know, I miss my folks. I miss my mom more. I think it's natural to love your mother more than your father. I think if you really think about it, your mother is your first apartment on this planet. Her body was your first house, you know? I'm the youngest of 12. By the time it was my turn to occupy that apartment, it was a mess. Everything was loose but enough about my mom. I miss her dearly. I miss my mom and my dad. They're gone now. They're in Hawaii on vacation. Anyways, all right, that was a cheap joke there. They're gone to their reward. Eh?
That was an expensive joke. Hawaii?
That's right. You been there?
Hell yeah.
That's right. You're an expensive woman. I can tell your man has to have 2 jobs. I've been to Hawaii. I like to call them tropical Mexicans. Hey, brother, you a Mexican boy, brother? I said, ¿qué no soy tu brother? Ni qué chingo estás hablando? Hey, brother, we don't got a lot of Mexicans here. It's a long swim, huh? I said, órale, cabrón. Who's doing the jokes now? Chihuato pineapple eater. Pineapple eater. I have been everywhere, and I'm the kind of guy, I'm like an old shoe. I find comfort in everything, you know. When I'm in Miami, after a couple of weeks, I start talking Cuban. Oye, tú chico, ¿qué es eso que estás haciendo aquí? No me estés jodiendo la vida acá. I was very much in love with this Cuban girl. We lived together for 8 years. She was a very wonderful girl to me, but her parents messed it up, you know? Her parents, they came over to the house, and they, his name was Arsenio, así se llamaba el señor. He was always talking about who his daughter could have married, you know. He said, oye, tú no sabes que mi nena se podría haber casado con un doctor. They don't have to say the R's, they did doctor. He's dressed like a priest. Anyways, está casado con un doctor. Mi nena tenía muchos pretendientes, ¿sabes? Ella se había casado con un licenciado. And could have had a big house. Could have been very happy. But no, she decided to be with you. And now they live in this apartment here. And they would tell his wife, hey, Sandra, ¿tú recuerdas a aquel chico que venía a la casa que quería mucho aquí a Carmencita? Oh, como la quería, pidió permiso, que la quería sacar. Me pidió permiso por su mano y le di una pata. Pero en fin, ¿tú recuerdas? Guess he's trying to make me jealous, you know. Se podría ver que tú sabes que él ahora es un político, es un councilman. Y ahora se casó con una gringa, tiene una casa grande, así grande. Ella se podría haber casado en una casa grande, grande. Y ahora, no, pues está aquí con este tres patines. And I finally got fed up and I go, listen, mira, señor, your daughter is not materialistic. Viniendo aquí, todo ilegalmente, cruzando la frontera. ¿Por qué no son como nosotros los cubanos? Nosotros somos ciudadanos del minuto que entramos aquí. Ponemos una pata aquí seca, somos ya licenciados. Dije, oye, pero ustedes tuvieron que convertirse en comunistas, nosotros no. Besides, for us, coming to that border is an inconvenience. For us, it's like the Olympics. I remember when I was still a young man. I was being breastfed. I was 12, and some of you will get these jokes on the way home. You know, maybe it's the weather. That's why some of you are holding back, not really laughing as much as I thought you should. Matter of fact, you're probably laughing too much. You know, because I'm not giving you the A material. I'm like those people. They're outside the fence. You know, they didn't pay, but they're getting the show for free anyway. That's how Mexicans are. You know. ¿Para qué pago? Sí, estoy seguro que ustedes no hablan español, así que o hablo otro lenguaje, ¿no? Porque yo soy muy versatile con eso. You know, I've been doing this. Did I tell you that I try to quit smoking? So I'm using these paletas now. I'm 400 a day. 400 me está saliendo muy caro, ¿no? Pero en fin. Qué placer estar aquí con ustedes, you know. And a round of applause for Cleto. He was here, you know. First of all, if my name was Cleto, I'd be suing my parents, you know. What kind of name is that? You know, Anarcleto. That's, you know. I think Mexicans, our parents get a calendar from a panaderia. You ever seen that? And every day. There's some obscure name, you know, Dia de Santo Jonás, Heraclato, Escolástico. That's how they pick those names, you know. Thank God my father's name was Pablo, you know. I wasn't always Paul. I wish I was still Pablo, but at the time when I was coming up, there was a band called Pablo Cruz, and my manager said, look, they're just going to confuse you, so drop that Pablo name. Now you're Paul. Que chingados que Paul, pero deep down inside, I'm still Pablo, you know. Funny thing happened to me in the name. I was at a hotel in Houston, and they said it was haunted, right? Yeah, yo digo, I'm not afraid of ghosts. It's the living people that scare me, not the ghosts, right? So there I am in bed, and I hear this noise. I hear, Paul. And I start getting all scared like this girl right here, you know. I hear, toda la noche, y yo adentro de las sábanas, ay, teniendo miedo, you know, that somebody's gonna pull my foot, you know, híjole, he knows my name. In the morning when I woke up, it was a humidifier. The humidifier was making that noise all night long. I felt so stupid. I was pinche humidifier had me peeing my pants. But I could hear it clearly. Finally I said, what? It was a humidifier. That's why it didn't answer me back. Sometimes I think that's God's way of giving me material. You know, because stupid things happen to me. But enough about my ex-wives. I remember I almost got married one time to a white girl for immigration reasons only. Turns out she was more illegal than me. She was from Chile. She was from, not that kind of Chile, but the country. The country named Chile. You're so mal pensados todos ustedes. Gente. Me van a forzar que sea yo grosero aquí con ustedes. Anyways, I never got married, and It's not that I'm against marriage. It's just that that's the only way I can avoid divorce, you know. My mom had 5 of us, and she married a man that already had 7. I go, Ma, how attractive could my father be? You married a guy that already had 7? I said, yeah, exactly. I didn't say that in front of my mom, but that's true. I said, well, what do you see in this man? He's got, and my dad says, well, I had to find somebody to cook. I said, well, you married my mom because she wasn't attractive, she was so beautiful? Of course she was beautiful, but I needed someone que sepa planchar, que sepa lavar, que sepa hacer comida. And your mom came along like a bunny rabbit. I never heard my mom compared to a bunny rabbit. My father was married. They were married for almost 51 years. And I keep doing that. People are going to be afraid to go to the bathroom, huh? They're going to go, I got to pee, but he'll follow me. He'll make fun of me. That's right. If I don't, this place will empty out. Look at this. I have performed in many places. This is the first time I performed under a tree. Out in the... My career's going to hell in a handbasket. All my friends going, hey man, I remember you used to play theaters. Now you're playing in between meals with women leaving all the time. You know, I'm going to stay here until there's nobody but you, guy. Just me and you. And I'll be repeating my jokes and we're going, you said that already. Orale, wait. Yeah, and over here, we have people over here too. That's what I like. You know, no skinny man here in San Antonio. Ain't that right, sir? That's right. In front of her. I can say things when I want because I'm a Catholic man. Anyways, where was I? Not that you're taking notes or anything like that. I've been everywhere. I was doing the movie Ali with Will Smith, the slapper. Yeah. But, he didn't slap me. I was too fast. I wish he would have slapped me. I would have been rich now. Shit. You know, I heard that Chris Rock got like $40 million in a lawsuit from this cabrón. Shit, I've been slapped for nothing. For $40 million, I'll be slapping myself. How many times do you want me to do that, you know? Some people have all the luck, and some people have not. But I think, you know, I look at it this way. My job is I'm in the happy business, you know? I don't have any bad days. About 2 years ago, I just come back from Canada, and I was at home, and I started to feel a pressure on my chest, and I was supposed to go golf. And I don't want to disappoint this guy. He had a chance to golf with Paul Rodriguez. I don't know, I think he paid 50 cents or something like that, I don't know. But I went over there and I told this guy, I said, listen, I'm so sorry, man. I just got back from Canada. I was doing an episode of A Million Little Things, some TV series. I said, and I'm just tired, and I'm sorry I can't golf with you. And he says, man, you don't look good. I said, look, this my looks got to do with it. He goes, no. He goes, let me take your blood pressure. And he took my blood pressure. He happened to be a doctor, which goes to prove that God wanted me around. And he said, my God, he said, I haven't seen a blood pressure that high in my life. He goes, you're going to go right straight to the hospital. And he happened to be a doctor. And I said, doctor, we become good friends. I said, look, Dr. Agron, I know me. I'm just tired. I said, I'm going to go home, go to sleep, and I'll call you tomorrow. He said, son, you don't have a tomorrow. Trust me. So I'm glad I didn't fight him too much. I was feeling a lot of pressure. So next thing you know, I'm in a hospital, and they took the x-rays and all that, and they were going to operate my heart. They were going to do a quadruple bypass, you know. I had already made my peace with God, and I figured, well, if I got to go, I've had a great life, and I get to see my mom up there. I wonder if they allow cooking up there, because, man, I miss her frijoles. Those refries were probably the reason I had this heart problem, but that's a small price to pay. So there I was, and this nurse, this Filipino nurse, very attractive young lady, she begins to shave my chest. Not that I'm a hairy person, but I do have a couple of hairs there. And she's shaving, and I said, whoa. I said, do not shave the big, thick hairs I have around this nipple here. keep them there, because I have those for my girlfriend. Now she can suck and floss at the same time. I said, so I said, leave those alone. You can shave everything else. And she goes, okay, Mr. Rodriguez. You still have a funny, even though your heart's not good. I said, that's right. So she's shaving, and she's shaving all the way down to the package, you know? And I'm saying, my God, how far is the doctor gonna cut? I said, the doctor only gonna cut up to your belly button. I said, so how come you're shaving all the way down there? She goes, we do this for fun. I said, we don't see fruit this big in the Philippines. I said, well, all right, knock yourself out. Do what you got to do. So there I was, and the doctor came. They operated on me, and it was 6 hours. But if you've ever had an operation, when they put you under, time is slow for you. You know, you wake up. I thought it was just a few minutes, right? The motto of this story is, sometimes a blessing is disguised as a trauma, you know? Maybe I had to have this operation to realize that it made me and my son a lot closer, you know? And he's looking for a wife, and it could be you know? Because I want him to have children, you know? Because I want to be a grandpa. No, I am a grandpa. And me and my granddaughter, she's the apple of my eye. We hang out a lot. And she's a young lady now. She doesn't want to hang out with me that much, but ever since she was a little girl, we'd hang out because everything she did was interesting to me. We sit there, and she goes, Grandpa, do you want to have a tea party? I go, I don't know if you're old enough for marijuana, but okay. She sat there and she showed me how to grab the cup, and she says, your finger has to be way out here, and you todo el pedo, no? And I'm drinking, and then she would go, I just want you to know, Grandpa, that I have the nicest grandpa in the whole world. I said, yeah, who is that? On your mother's side? She goes, no, you, Dad. You, Grandpa, you're my favorite grandpa. I said, well, yeah, I don't know if you had any more. The other ones are dead, but anyways, all right. So by the process of elimination, I'm your favorite grandpa. She goes, why is it so hard for you to take a compliment? And she starts to rub my cheek. I got the nicest grandpa in the whole world. I got the prettiest grandpa. I want you to know, the prettiest grandpa in the whole world. And I go, stop it already. I'm going to leave you everything, you know? Whatever you want to do with those $200, you go right ahead. You know? You'll have to borrow them from your dad. But, you know, life is what you make it, you know? I'm no philosopher. But I'm sure glad my son is not homosexual. That's what I'm trying to tell you. Because, well, I don't know that. I mean, I'm not there, but he had this girl, and they had a baby. Somebody once said, you can love your children no matter what they are, you know? I'm sure there's a mother out there whose son is a serial killer. She's out there going, my son's a serial killer, but he's the best serial killer out of all of them. He's killed more people. You know, she's bragging about her son, right? You know, even if your son works at a circus and picks up elephant shit, the moms are going, my son picks up elephant shit better than any other elephant shit picker. Because mothers are important, I guess. They look at their sons. My mom brags about me. She goes, my son, he's okay. He tells jokes, but he's not as good as the other ones. I go, órale, jefa, I started the other ones. Before me, there was nobody. And after me, there are too many, you know. But enough about Gabriel Iglesias. Say, gordo. You know, Gabriel and I had the same teacher, Miss Anita Cano at college. And I did the commencement speech for the college that year. And she comes up to me, because I used to disrupt her class a lot. As a matter of fact, this lady, Anita Cano, told me one time, he goes, Paul, if you could just be quiet a little bit, you know, it's hard for me to tell you to be quiet because I'm laughing, the whole class is laughing, but we're like a month behind our lessons. So either please shut up, or let me take you down to the Comedy Store and you can go up there and do your jokes. I had never heard of the Comedy Store. So she did that. One day she told the students, took me, went down to the Comedy Store, and she wrote my name down, and I went up there. It's a real interesting story, but anyways, she goes, I've heard enough. Anyways, so she took me, and I got up on stage, and I swear to you, I had an epiphany. Her name was Epiphany, no. I had an epiphany. I said, man, this is what I was born to do. And I never looked back. Years later, well, thank you for that half-ass applause. Anyways, half-ass is better than no ass at all. Okay. Anyways, years later, I'm doing the commencement speech, and she says, there's this other guy in my class that's very funny, Paul. I'm going to introduce you. Maybe you can take him down to the Comedy Store. And that guy was Gabriel Iglesias. And I looked at him, and he starts to do his voice. I said, well, hold on. So I took him down to the Comedy Store, and the rest is history. Gabe is a big star, and I'm still hanging in there. So I told Miss Anita Cano, why the hell are you teaching? Why aren't you an agent, you know? You can make a lot more money with 10% of Gabriel and maybe 2% of me, and you'll be doing all right. She's passed on. She passed away, but she was always so proud of that. She would always tell her students. She got me to do the commencement speech, and when she introduced me like this. Okay, everybody, this is Paul Rodriguez. He was so disruptive in my class. I feel sorry for the other students who didn't graduate because of this guy right here. I said, well, damn, teacher. Well, thanks a lot. But she was a wonderful lady. I often think that sometimes in life, you have accidents happen to you. It's God's way of telling you to make a left and you should have made a right. Because if I didn't have, you agree with that? Because if I didn't have that teacher, today I would have probably been a divorce lawyer. Cheating on my wife and probably overcharging them, you know. Dios no le dio alas a los alacranes, porque volando pican, there's an old saying. And that certainly would have been me, you know. I'm glad I'm not a lawyer, because I would have been one of these very crooked lawyers. Not like there's any straight ones, by the way. Every lawyer I met has put his hand in my pocket and left me nothing. But enough about my brother. Anyways, as you can see, there's no rhyme or reason to what I do. I simply want to thank all of you for coming out here and bearing the cold. I know that if you're like me, your nipples are hard enough to cut glass right now. You know, they are like this one right here. Ay, Dios mío. It's poking right out of my t-shirt right now. Not that I'm ashamed of that, because I'll tell you, God gave me the prettiest nipples the Lord ever gave a mammal. My nipples are pink. They're shiny. They pay attention. They say hola. They're not like your nipples made out of elbow meat. No. My nipples are very nice. I think God gave me girl nipples. Maybe He wanted me to be a girl. I don't know. It's not too late. No, it is too late. See, this show is really awful when the hecklers are heckling themselves. There are people right now taking my job going, hey, I can do that. And you probably can, but, you know, some people say that public speaking is the thing that they're most frightened of, you know. Public speaking is way up there with jumping out of an airplane or whatever your fear is. Why is that? I don't know. Because for me, I'm still afraid, by the way. Right before I go on, I'm pacing up and down. But then I realize all I'm going to do is have a conversation. To me, you're all one person in my living room, and I'm having a conversation with you, and I don't give you a chance to talk. So I talk for you, you know. I want to thank all of you for coming. I hope you're not as disappointed as I am. You know, I want to wish all of you who are Catholic and are going to heaven the best, and those of you who are not, well, I'll see you in hell. But but it's just a few more days before Christmas. And all through the casa, mother was busy making the masa. You know, Christmas for us was never about the toys, you know. Christmas for us was just about the food, you know, the special foods that are made, like buñuelos. You guys have buñuelos here in Texas? I know you guys eat buñuelos. I could tell by your size. But you know, capirotada. Los tamales. The tamales are just larger. Tamales tontos, como decía mi mamá. You know, with pasas and pineapple. That's how. Well, I don't know if you Texans use it like that, but I remember my mom would make a big batch of tamales, and my whole job was to tie them. You know, she didn't fold them like that. She had little knots on both sides. I can tell this woman's a tamalera. I can tell she's made a tamale or two. Because now when I meet a girl that I'm interested in, I shake her hand, I smell her hand, I go, no, esta no sabe hacer tamales. That's one of the blessings, you know, that our food is what mom's handed down. I wish I would have paid attention. My father was a very good cook. He used to raise turkeys, and for Christmas and Thanksgiving, he would raise turkeys, and he would sit there and he would talk to them, you know. A ver tú, ven para acá. And he would tell us not to give any names to the turkeys because they were not pets. And I go, Dad, but ese turkey que tiene toda esa carne así suelta en la nuca, se parece a la tía Carmen. And my father go, ¿dónde llames Carmen? And he looked at me and go, oye, tienes razón. Tiene toda la carne así suelta. Ok, a este lo vamos a llamar Carmen. Carmencita, que no tiene nada de mencita. Come on in. I see you have a drinking problem. Solve that problem. You know, I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. I want to thank you all for coming out here, indulging me, hearing me talk. I want to thank you for freezing for me. Find yourself a fat guy. Hug a fat guy. That should be your calentón right there, you know? You need 3, but God bless all of you, and I hope that He gives me enough time. Come on in, girls. I was gonna wrap it up. Come on in, cowgirl. Anyways, it's one of the joys of my life to come to San Antonio. Right now, I gotta leave you because I'm gonna go to Market Square before they close. I want to have menudo, and in Los Angeles, they only have menudo on Sunday, but here they got menudo 24/7. Maybe that's why I don't live. Maybe that's why I don't live here. I would die, you know. I eat menudos. I'll lead myself into an early grave. But I want to wish all of you a very Merry Christmas. Thank you all for coming, and we'll see you around. God bless.